Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D. Fall is here. You can feel it in the air, and the waters are heating up. You can go for so many different fish. And what we're going to talk about today are those big fish that live in the Chesapeake and run up our rivers. Yes, I'm talking stripers, and they are so much fun to catch on a fly rod. But you know I'm never going to do it alone, and I have two special guests with me today. First, sitting on the far right-hand side there is Captain Reid Parker, and then in the center is Captain Keegan Lemcke. Thank you both for joining me. Appreciate you on Off the Hook with Matty D.
Thanks for having us on, Matt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let's kind of review a bit. First of all, you guys are fishing partners. You are both part of the Current Culture Fly, what was once a shop, and now just in name, you guide for that with Simone. Talk about how things have been going all summer. We'll start with Keegan first.
Summer's been going great, right? We kicked off right after striper season in the spring with the gar fishing that both Reid and I were doing. Then moved into snakehead and a little bit of the bass fishing. Yeah. And then with the cool weather we've been having lately, the striper fishing kicked in a little early this year.
And Reid, you and I went out. We went for snakeheads and bowfin, and you saw me wonderfully trout set. A snakehead, will drop that now. I like the fact that Keegan's laughing. But outside of my horrific experience of me trout setting, how's your summer been so far?
It's been great. Kind of like Keegan said. I mean, we kind of hit the ground running straight out of spring striper into this gar and bowfin and snakehead. The gar fishing was really just off the charts, I thought.
Yeah.
Keegan and I were talking about it just the other day about, man, it was so good there from, late May into mid-July. And then snakehead's always fun, very, very challenging. And then we've caught a good bit of a bowfin this year. So it's been a good summer.
Good summer.
Very, very fun, yeah.
And is there somewhat of I think, Keegan, you do this as well, and maybe you do too, Reid, a little bit of a largemouth bass season too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we kind of catch them as bycatch when we're bowfin fishing and snakehead fishing a good bit, which is always fun, especially if, snakehead on fly is a pretty tough game. So Sometimes those largemouth are there for us to kind of keep the action hot. But as it kind of cools down here in September, we're starting to see some very consistent largemouth action, especially on the bigger fish, on those, Alco and tides specifically as it cools down. I know Keegan got into some good bass on a creek that actually the same creek we fished with you, Matt.
Okay.
He got into some good bass the other week.
I caught a big perch.
That's right, you did. You did catch a big old perch. That's when the biggest ones of the year are caught for us, I feel like, is when we're trying to catch snakehead, and all of a sudden here's a perch.
We don't got a picture of that perch?
No. I should send it to you. Yeah.
I don't know if we got a picture of that perch.
I don't think you let me take a picture.
No,
you were
I was
no
so
picture.
embarrassed, and you two were on the phone. You're like, Matt's on, click, and it's like, drop the phone. All right, so let's talk about Keegan. You alluded to a little bit there. The cooler weather has brought on an early striper bite. So historically, how is striper season in the fall? I guess I always think about, hey, the James River's hot in, late April and May, and we're hitting stripers like crazy. But what about the fall season?
Well, so we kind of think about it in reverse. So in the spring, right, we're waiting for that water to warm up a little bit, to get to where the fish are really comfortable. And now coming out of the summer, as we had those cool nights 3-4 weeks ago, right now the river that I'm fishing specifically is sitting anywhere between 68 and 72 degrees on any average day. And so it's right in that happy zone for the fish and for the bait too, which is what's most important.
And are these adult stripers or these schoolie stripers or a mixture of both?
Schoolies.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And so they're in they're coming out of the Chesapeake going back into the tidal rivers, or do they kind of meander back and forth just chasing bait?
That size fish tends to stay in that section of the river, between the headwaters and the higher salinity. And they just, it's all dependent on that water temperature. So we don't see them in the summer because the water shallower is a lot warmer. So they're sitting deep off, in the channel past the drop-offs in 30, 40, 50 feet of water.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so this time of year, Matt, it's a lot of, like in September and early October, it's a lot of our resident fish, the ones that don't, make that big trip up north. typically.
Okay, so these are stripers that aren't going to the Jersey Shore, that whole Long Island area or off the coast of Massachusetts. Those are the behemoths.
Right now, yeah. And those are the ones that we see more kind of in the rivers now. As we kind of get later in the fall, more towards the mouth of those rivers, you start getting more of those migratory fish coming back south to overwinter in the bay and their tributaries.
Gotcha. And we have an exceptional striper population that does return here year after year. But of course, some of that problem is, I mean, there's been so much harvesting of the stripers. That's why we have such, good limitations so that we can regrow this population again.
Right.
Yeah. How long does the striper season go in fall? I mean, all winter? I mean, because we know they come into the rivers further up to breed, right?
They do, yeah. So, Keegan, if you want to answer that one.
So they come up in the spring to breed, and then in the fall, they're going to stick around and they're going to bite as long as the bait is here. So what we had recently show up was the shrimp mid-river, and they key in on that a lot. So those shrimp are going to stick around while the water's cool. We kind of quit fishing for them end of November, but they're that's when a lot of guys trolling are catching their big fish in December, January. And then we pick it right back up in February after fowl season goes out for both of us.
Right, because you both kind of stop fishing and do fowl and hunting and stuff. So that's also a big thing that you do going into the winter season.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I think dictates like mine and Keegan's striper season in the fall is like when hunting season comes in, we're just laser focused on that typically. So not that you can't catch them all winter long, because like Keegan said, I think last year we went out in February and it's like they were kind of right where we left them. You get that right tide, good prevailing weather conditions, and they'll be where they're supposed to be, which is cool.
But you guys cut down your season because hunting fowl is really just such a great game for you both, and you get a lot of clientele repeats year after year for that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that kind of
a
makes
lot of fun. Short season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and is part of that also dictated by, I mean, in fall, we could get just some nasty weather, right? Like, look at, what we,
Seeing it now.
Yeah. It's just brutal. I mean, this is not fun to fish in at all.
It is. And, Reid's had the days, I'm sure you've had the days in the spring, where it gets sporty out there on the James, and the fish love it. Not to say that the fish don't love it in the fall when it gets a little sporty. It's just, the fisherman gets a little bit more uncomfortable in the fall.
I was going to say, I was looking out the window today being like, man, if it wasn't for the wind, this would have been a great striper day. Those like nasty, cloudy, light rain days, some of the best striper fishing days I've had, fall and spring.
And I guess at that point, we just layer up and here we go. I mean, that's typical anyway. I mean, I really shouldn't complain. I fish steelhead at, 25 degrees.
Exactly. It's not going to be that cold. I promise you that.
Exactly. I mean, what am I thinking about? So in some of the pictures, and Keegan, again, thank you for some of the pictures you sent. Some of these are at night. So are we targeting these fish a little bit more night, or is this kind of like pre-sunrise, like to get that best bite? What are we looking at here?
So it's all dictated by the tide, bottom line. So even when we're fishing at night, right, the idea behind fishing at night is the lights bring in, right now, the shrimp start to key in on the lights and the little bunkers start to key in on the lights. And that's why the striper are there. That's not to say we can't go out and have great days middle of the day. Just beginning of the season, it's nice to fish them on the lights. It's cooler at night. The fish are happier. As we get more into October and the days cool off even more, we're going to have very happy fish, day side. As long as we have a good moving tide, they'll be there.
So tide is really dictating the movement of the bait, and then you're keying in on those bait fish because your striper is going to be right near them at that point.
Correct.
Yeah, got it. And so, like in springtime, I think we're typically fishing clousers, or maybe Reid's favorite thing, the jerk changer. But I'm glad I got a laugh out of both of you for that. That was my Simone dab, by the way. Are we still fishing clousers, or because you mentioned shrimp are in,
yeah.
so are we fishing shrimp patterns, or all of the above?
It's the beauty of a clouser is it can imitate a bait fish. It can imitate shrimp. Kind of just depends on what color and how you fish it. But when I'm fishing them on fly, it's a lot of clousers. Try to tie some stuff with weed guards in them because we're fishing a lot of heavy structure. So we don't want to get fouled up as much. We do lose some flies out there. So yes, sinking lines, often jig style flies, something with those hourglass eyes in them. And I know Keegan kind of turned me on to like tying them with a little like wire weed guard on the hook just to kind of not get fouled up on some of the structure that we're hitting. He looks like he's got his secret weapon.
Uh-oh, let me get a little zoom tighter here. There we go. Oh, okay. So is it a heavy monofilament or is it a physical wire?
Straight wire.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Not to say you can't do it with mono, but the mono wears out.
Okay.
So it's almost like what you
after
see.
you get so many fish.
It's almost like what you see on like a lot of conventional bass jigs when they have those kind of like wire loops that kind of hook almost on the barb of the hook, right? Keegan?
And those come directly from those hooks.
That's right.
I cut them right off those hooks.
Cut it right off and then tie it onto the flies that you're tying. That's pretty
Correct.
smart. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. And so what weight rods are we still using 7, 8, 9 weight rods or? Yeah.
A lot of the time, 7, 8, 9. Again, when we're fishing, and Keegan, you can speak on this some if you'd like, but when we're fishing kind of heavy cover, sometimes it's being able to like wrench them out of that, say, dock piling or something, because they'll be tucked up right up in there. So sometimes having that 9, sometimes even 10 weight rod isn't unheard of. And that's A, to match your sinking line, B, to match that heavy fly, and C, just to like wrench them out of that cover.
Because once they go in, Keegan, they want to nuzzle in there, so you got to hold them out.
I mean, you just don't want to let them get in,
Yeah.
right? The whole thing is once you feel that bite and you make that strip set, right, you're just holding on for dear life. Because as soon as they get wrapped around those pilings, or whatever it is, whatever structure we're fishing, it's pretty sharp. A lot of that, we're running 30-pound leader at the bite section, and you give them enough time to wear that against, some barnacles down there, and they're going to break that.
Yeah, and that's probably the other thing too. The barnacles, I mean, just shred the heck out of a standard if you want like a 12-pound leader or something. So a little bit heavier leader is to protect that as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
There's stuff down there that'll shred your fly line,
Right.
Crab pots.
Crab
You
pots.
never know.
Yeah.
There's all sorts
that
of
kind
stuff down
Yeah.
Because if there's bait and the crabs are for the bait, the pots are there, and the stripers, so it's a big ecosystem of smorgasbord of food for a striper, but it's also it makes it very difficult for fly lines, tippet, leaders, etc.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And for bait, fall is amazing, right? We've gone so far this month. We've had bunker on the lights, very small juvenile shrimp on the lights, massive big shrimp, right, on the lights, and then what's my favorite? And you never really know that they're eating on this until you see them spitting them up. But little blue crabs, yearly blue crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you? I mean, you said the clouser can imitate anything, but do you ever throw like tiny crabs as bait? You're smiling, Keegan. Am I giving a secret
Sometimes.
away?
No. Sometimes for sure. I won't show any of those, but yeah.
I think
for sure.
Striped bass they're a very fair fish.
Okay.
And they're extremely opportunistic. And so I think for me, when I'm targeting them, not that I wouldn't throw a crab pattern. When I throw any kind of crab fly, I feel like that's in like a sight fishing situation. Redfish on a flat kind of thing is when I'm throwing a crab fly, kind of similarly. But if I'm looking for, schooled fish that are on like big numbers of bait, I'm trying to kind of like bet my chances on what they're honing in on, which in my opinion would be those shrimp or those schools of bait.
And then Keegan, I'm sorry if I gave away a trade secret there. I felt like the way you were smiling, I'm like, oh, Maddie just went. When are these fish more? Because you mentioned the word, Reid, opportunistic, more aggressive in the fall? Are they like fattening up for winter, or is it about the same in spring?
That's a great question, Maddie. We get really aggressive eats in both seasons.
Right.
I don't know if I could say that one fish is more aggressive in a season.
I think
That's
you
tough.
get that a lot, especially with stripers on any kind of like temperature gradient, right? So on a warm up or a cool down, where it's like getting more towards the temperature they're comfortable in. Like I almost equate it to like human behavior. In the springtime, we're all excited to get outside, get on the water because it's finally warming up. This time of year, it's been hot all summer, hot and wet. We're ready to go drink pumpkin spice lattes and pick pumpkins, right? So it's the same thing with fish. It's that temperature gradient. I don't know, and I'm not a biologist. I can't really speak to this. I think the conventional knowledge for a long time has been like, oh, they're putting on the feeding bags in the spring because they're about to spawn. They need that energy to spawn. I think there's some truth to that. And then I also think there is some truth to, oh, it's about to get cold. They got to fatten up for winter. I've heard arguments against that, but something is making them act aggressive. And
Right.
it's both those seasons I've noticed. It's the, dead of summer, dead of winter where we don't see as much activity.
And so you guys have both started fishing stripers with clients right now. And you mentioned this will go until foul season goes on. So, I mean, is it, I don't want to say striper fishing is easy because no fishing is easy. They all present their challenges. But compared to going for snakeheads or bowfin, is this for somebody who maybe not be as adept at, making that really perfect cast, that 60-foot cast and being super stealth? Is this a little bit better for the intermediate angler, let's say, or not?
Anytime you can relatively blind cast, right, is going to be a little bit easier for your intro angler, right, naturally.
Right.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I think these schoolie stripers, they're grouped up, schooled up, so they're a little bit more competitive in nature there. When we're snakehead fishing, bowfin fishing, we're often fishing to solitary fish, pairs at best. So when they're kind of grouped up, they're a little more competitive, I've found.
So that's interesting there, right? Because so these are in schools of what, 15, 20, 30, depending on the size of the river, I guess could even be bigger. Yep. So, right, there is that competition to get that bait, get that food.
Exactly.
Right. Sure. So that makes things a little bit, quote unquote, easier. I don't want to say easy because we can all lose fish. We could all trout set when we should strip set. We can
higher opportunities.
Yes. Thank
More
you.
room for error.
That was the.
Yeah.
If you mess up once, there's the opportunity that will present itself again.
Most likely.
Right. I got you. That makes some sense.
Yeah. You could mess up and still catch a fish before you get that fly back to the boat.
Yeah, it's true. I've seen it happen.
I like the fact that Keegan just nicely smoothed that out for me because I might have been digging a little bit of a hole myself there. So clients can reach out to you guys and go through the website, Current Culture Fly. Let me bring that up, by the way, so we can just kind of get that in there. And they can go to the guide services and you can look at the trips and you can request a trip, and we could do it through, I guess, the spring one for requesting either of you guys. Is that what we go through?
Yep. So if you keep going down, you should find the fall one. If it's not on here, it's on our Go Guide page. If you click where it says
request a trip
there, it should pop up. The one on the right, the top right corner.
There's the Hansen
top
double.
right corner. Okay, there we go. Yep. So we got that. So that's where you can do that. And so let's talk about clients and requesting, a trip through both of you. They go in and they probably should reach out to you guys first, kind of like, how is it going, kind of understand the lay of the land. Maybe they've only fly fished once or twice. You want to know what they're about and what their skills are before they jump on the boat, correct?
Exactly, yeah. And I think a big part of that with the fly side of it, because we will run some conventional trips for striped bass this time of year as well. And that's all light tackle stuff. We're not trolling or anything like that. But with the fly, the biggest thing there is being able to cast those heavy sinking lines and heavier flies, which say that's your first time. I would almost prefer it was someone's first time picking up a fly rod as opposed to, hey, I've been trout fishing a couple times, because the cast is a little bit different and there's a little bit of a technique to learn, and it's just a little bit less of that typical trout like 10 and 2. That's just not going to work with the sinking line in the way, and you're going to smack yourself in the back of the head. Again, we're happy to talk you through it. We're very well versed in taking people of all experience levels. But there is a little bit of a nuance to casting that sinking line and those heavy flies specifically.
And Keegan, so when we talk about those sinking lines, I mean, we've all been there where we're going a little bit too quick with the rod. I mean, there is a patience factor that needs to be
Absolutely.
with yeah. And
you got to let it load, without a doubt.
And so that fly you showed, by the way, just kind of getting back to that, is that like a size 2-aught? That looked like a pretty good, or
size 2-aught hook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going big flies because they're aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, not to say, Reid ties many deceivers for spring that are definitely bigger than this.
Yeah.
Right. Without a doubt. Maybe not as heavy.
Right.
But bigger. Yeah.
I like the fact that you got the deceiver dig in there. I mean, because, I thought you were going to go with the other one there. But like in springtime, maybe I'm wrong, but when I've been with you guys, I thought the flies that we used were slightly smaller, like a size 2 or maybe a 4.
That oftentimes
something
depends.
like that, yeah.
And I think that depends on conditions more than anything else.
Okay.
Conditions and the almost like season within a season kind of thing, right? So I'm oftentimes throwing a larger profile fly at the beginning of my spring striper season. And then as that, generally speaking, the water gets lower as we get into May. These fish have seen a lot, and we're kind of finessing them a bit more. So we have a slimmer profile, especially if we have really low, clear water. And as there's a lot of people who fish on the James, and all fish are going to respond to angling pressure to some level. And so I think what we found is when we have low, clear water, high angling pressure, having a smaller profile is better for the program that we run.
Gotcha.
A lot of the time.
And Keegan, I think you hit on this a little bit off the beginning there. These fish are returning from the deeper kind of channels at the edge of the tidal streams and running up into the tidal streams. And that's kind of where they'll winter. Like you said, if you were to fish all in November, December, January, they might move a little bit upstream, but they're kind of in that same area. So the tidal rivers are really kind of the jackpot.
Correct. So as fall begins, right, and that bait shows up, we see the striper, in two main places. We see them at creek mouths, and I include, the first 2 bends of a creek in that.
Right.
And then we see them on flats adjacent to, grass banks, undercut banks, anything that's going to hold crabs. And that is saying that's just because the bait is there that we're seeing those fish in those 2 spots. As the temperatures drop, those fish are going to go right back to the section of the water column that stays the same, right? Very, very hot and very cold. They're going to go to wherever is right at moderate. So they move back deep. So as things get colder, we're catching them on hard structure, but much deeper, where we may have been catching them at 3 to 5 feet earlier in the season. Now we're targeting them at structure that's 10, 15, sometimes almost 20 feet deep.
Gotcha. So it's a little bit of a reverse of the spring, like you were mentioning before, Reid.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Interesting. All right, so I'm a client that I've now booked with you, and we're coming up on my date, and I'm looking at the weather, and it looks crazy. Obviously, I just need to bring a backpack full of different clothes.
I'd say layers are important, and we'll be in touch with you at least a few days before your trip, looking at the weather, knowing what to expect. We're never going to get you out there in an unsafe situation. If the wind is blowing too hard, we're going to try and reschedule.
Yeah.
Or look at different options that are a little bit safer for the day. But it's a lot of the time we're starting pretty early, so it could be chilly when we get out there, and when the sun gets up, it could be kind of warm. So just being able to layer appropriately, I think, is important there.
I mean, you have it in those pictures. Some of those are October, and those guys are,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
that guy's, like I said, that guy's bundled up pretty good, and he's like, hey, where's the sunshine? So, right.
that was a beautiful day.
you know?
I'll give it that. That was a nice, pretty day.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then if I grab back to these two here, I mean, this, it's, looks to me like that's 4 a.m, 5 a.m, and, where's that hot cup of coffee to keep me warm, right?
Yeah.
But still the smiles on their face, right? They're enjoying it no matter what. I mean, that's what it's all about. So good stuff there. Okay, so there is no kind of hard end to both of your seasons because it's based on doing either upland hunting or fowl season. But is there kind of a soft end to when you both kind of say, hey, we're done with stripers because we're moving on to hunting, so to speak?
November-ish, I'd say. I think, Keegan, that might be a little more of a hard cutoff for you, I know. And,
Correct.
a part of that is there's, aside from us going out and hunting, a lot of these waters that we fish have folks hunting on them when hunting season comes in. So it just kind of gets messy that way too. So it's typically when duck season comes in, it's pretty much done at that point for us.
Correct.
And Keegan and Reid, are you guys still doing, I think last year we talked about it, Cast and Blast?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that for those that don't remember that particular episode. Keegan, go ahead. Give us a little bit of a lowdown of what Cast and Blast is and how the day is kind of structured.
So the Cast and Blast typically was just when the November season for waterfowl came in, normally around the 18th and 19th of November. And at that time, last year and the year before, we were offering marsh hunts either for black ducks and mallards, gadwall, and then also fishing for striped bass, speckled trout, and puppy drum. And I think Reid and I are both a little excited this year that we added on rail hunting. That's what we're doing as far as our fowl. So that moves earlier. That opened up September 6th. So there's possibilities for Cast and Blast from now all the way until November.
Wow. So that really kind of brings, because I know a lot of fly anglers are also avid hunters and vice versa. So it brings in to a full day of I get to do both things and just enjoy the heck out of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm working with the Preserve at Dundee again this year for upland hunts, and they're kind of putting together a package for a Cast and Blast kind of from October through March even this time of year. So we have a lot of options for folks who want to, do the waterfowl and fish thing, or if they want to, hit the upland field for quail, chucker, and pheasant, or even woodcock hunting when that season is in, and then fish in the afternoon. We have actually a good bit of opportunities this season coming up for Cast and Blast.
So when I'm looking at the, I'm going to pull up the browser here for a second, pull up your website here. Would someone then go for the general waterfowl hunt and then kind of put in a note section, hey, I'd like to do Cast and Blast, or would they do the fly fishing, or could they do it either way? How would they best, kind of let you guys know I want to do both?
That's more of a conversation, so it's not something that is kind of on the page right now. It's generally just a request, someone who specifically wants that. They know about it kind of thing. So the best way to do that is to just contact us and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, and we can kind of piece together a package for you. Right.
And easy way to contact. You go to the website there, and right at the top, you hit contact us, and that page comes up, and you can drop an email to Captain Reid Parker. Keegan, for some reason, Captain Reid, when he designed this website, left you off the website. I think you need to have a conversation with him. I'm just kidding. But that's an easy way to do that. And so how long is a cast and blast day, by the way, Keegan? Is it an 8-hour, you split it 4 and 4, 6 and 2, or is it a longer like 10?
It all depends on weather. Normally it's between 6 and 8.
Okay.
But if we have a great day where we want to push that morning hunt, for waterfowl a little later, right? So maybe we have the rain, we have the cloud coverage, then we would just add it on and just, fish a little bit longer on the back end.
Gotcha. But a standard booking is about 6 to 8 hours.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, great. So we've covered a lot here. This has been really educational. I truly do appreciate you guys both coming on. When do you make that transition, Reid and Keegan, from waterfowl to upland hunting then?
That is a little different because the upland season for preserve hunting is a bit longer. So that actually comes in, it's technically in now, the preserve that I work with primarily, the preserve at Dundee and Hanover. They start hunts 1st of October. So coming up here. So we have opportunities to do upland cast and blast from the 1st of October all the way through March, technically. Now, generally speaking, we don't do a whole lot of upland hunts in March. We do a lot of dog work. Upland hunting is all about hunting over working dogs, and it just gets a little too warm, and it can be really hard on the dog. So if we got some cool, good days in March, that can line up for some good early season striped bass or shad fishing along with an upland hunt. Again, it all kind of depends on the weather,
right?
But that season can potentially be pretty long.
So you need me to give you good weather. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure. Great. Guys, anything else that I should bring to people's attention? I mean, fall striper season is here, booking through early November. We have cast and blast mixed in, and then we're on to waterfowl season.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would note there is that this is a really fun and unique fishery, which I know I say a lot, but that's just because I think the Central Virginia region does have a lot of unique fisheries, and this is just one of them. We can have some sort of outdoor pursuit all year long.
Right.
And this is like one of my favorites, I think, is like this kind of in between fall season, end of the fishing season, beginning of the hunting season. And it's not far from Richmond. Everywhere we're fishing for these fish is within an hour's drive from downtown.
Right.
So very easy day trip for
Very
folks.
easy. Great.
Yeah.
Good deal. Keegan, thanks so much for coming on today. Hang out there for a quick
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. And so look, I fished with Simone, I fished with Reid. I do need to get out with you.
So, we'll get you out.
Yeah, let's you and I hook up for stripers so I can trout set them. And we'll use a jerk changer.
Oh, perfect.
Hang on for a quick second, please. Again, once again, my guests today were Captain Reid Parker and Captain Keegan Lemcke from Current Culture Fly. And again, you can go to the guide services or quickly just to request a trip, and you'll see right on the top right there the fall striped bass tidal rivers for Central and Eastern Virginia. And again, if you want to do the cast and blast, just give them a holler by going over to the contact us, reach out to them, and you can easily set that up because that is a fun time for sure. Don't forget, we'll have another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D coming up in just about a week. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D.